Okay, 2023 movie, Leave the World Behind. It's directed by Sam Esmail, who's responsible for the screenplay as well, based on a novel by Ruman Alam. And the cast, and it's a considerably powerful cast, I felt. In the lead role, Julia Roberts, she plays Amanda Sanford. Mahershala Ali plays G.H. Scott. Ethan Hawke is Clay Sanford, Amanda's husband, one assumes. Mayala is Ruth Scott. She's the wife of G.H. Scott, Mahershala Ali's character. Then we've got Farrah Mackenzie, Rose Sanford. Her husband Archie Sanford is played by Charlie Evans. Then a smaller role for Danny, who's played by Kevin Bacon. Wow, he's done some great work back in his career. And Danny's daughter is played by Alexis Ray Folenza, and there's a few other sundry folk. This is described as a overlong futuristic psychological thriller that depicts a possible doomsday scenario that affects two families. It's adapted from the best-selling novel, as I mentioned. The married couple, Amanda and Clay Sanford, played by Robertson Hawke, on a whim answer an ad that says, "Leave the world behind." And they leave their New York City home in Park Slope with their two teenage children. They go on a weekend vacation to a rental beach house at Point Comfort, the Hamptons in Long Island. And on the beach, the family notice an oil tanker in the water and find it strange that it lands on the beach near where they are sitting. After settling into the rental, the well-dressed black house owner, Scott, surprisingly arrives with his sassy 20-something daughter, Ruth Washington. Marsha Laharo plays that part, so it's not a husband and wife, it's a father and daughter, and tells them that a cyber attack knocked out the power in the city but not completely in the country, and asks to stay with the family. The couple are upset by this development, especially Amanda, but seems to have little choice but to let them stay in the basement. And then a series of strange things happen regarding the outage. Okay, that's the basis. I won't read all of that review. So the opening scene then, Roberts and Ethan Hawke in their apartment. Amanda, played by Roberts, is up and busily packing her suitcase. She's made a decision that she and her husband and her children need a break, a vacation, and she's decided it all on impulse. Her husband awakes looking rather sort of stunned by this as he tries to fight off his sleepiness, and he asks, when is this going to happen? And she says today. She then launches into a description of how she looked down from her apartment in this urban landscape and saw all these people busily, frantically running about their business as they try and get to work. And then she comes out with this statement at the end of this first scene that she's decided that she fucking hates people. Great to see these two giants of the cinema working together, and I was pretty impressed by this intro scene. So we'll see what happens from here on. The film then drifts into a period where the central characters are all trying to work out what's happening. There's an outage, a power outage. Nothing is working that requires sort of a signal. No internet, no TV, no GPS on the car, and some are sort of taking it in their stride nonchalantly, whereas Amanda is becoming more and more paranoid and throwing out sort of ridiculous assumptions about the owner and his daughter,
seeking a night sleep at his own house. Clay, played by Hawke, goes into town to try and unearth any information about the cause of this disturbance, and he turns to an old habit of cigarette smoking, but gets a degree of frustration that no GPS, and as I say, the film sort of drifts really. We then get separate scenes involving the families. All the scenes reflect a sort of degree of sort of anxiety about the outage. Clay heading to the nearest town to try and get some info, stops by the roadside. We see wildlife, a cow seemingly inert almost, and then he's accosted by a woman who's frantically speaking in Spanish about a degree of anxiety that she's experiencing, and Clay of course can't understand a word of Spanish, and so this provokes further sort of disconcerting feelings. Then G.C. Scott heads out to try and talk to a neighbour, finds the property completely empty. He's got a gun with him, so he's in a heightened alert state. The children of Amanda and Clay, they spend some time using the swimming pool, but quickly get bored, although Amanda and Clay's son, he's caught the sexual curves of GC's daughter, who's also on a lounger by the swimming pool, but even that doesn't prevent the two children wandering off to try and find out more about these deer. So all in all, more and more sort of disconcerting feelings once the technology don't work. This reflects on how dependent we are on these technological things to keep us amused. God forbid that we should ever actually start to read books again, or actually play with toys, or sport, for example, or simple practices like chess or something of this ilk. It's all technology, and it's a very disturbing, dystopian sort of future that we're all heading towards. If you can imagine snippets of sort of the movie about the deer with Colin Farrell, The Walking Dead, a dystopian sort of future where there's strange occurrences. We get an amalgam. Clay spots a tornado-like accelerating down the centre of the highway. Maharashi Ali's character, G.C. Scott, comes to a beach, finds a pocket watch, and when he goes to lift it up, he comes across a severed limb, and then on the beach, which we assume is where the tanker grounded, there's evidence of dead corpses, and the children, particularly the girl, has now become very concerned about the fact that there were so many deer in the garden, And all these sort of incidents are sort of all sort of happening, and the characters are trying to sort of work out what the fuck's going on, and I haven't really got much of a clue either. Very loosely, of course, this could be a sort of speculative stab at what would happen in the event of global warming creating various disasters and various scenarios, and that's what I think the script is attempting to provoke in the viewer. You know, the fact that strange weather patterns, strange events, there's a sort of Scott is subject to a very small sort of wave surge in his neighbour's house, just like rising sea levels, and this might have something to do with why a tanker ran aground. The receding sea, the tides, and the reaction of animals linked in with the moon's sort of impact on cycles within a physiological aspect of nature, and how it relates to patterns of environmental circumstances. So it's all a sort of melting pot of mumbo jumbo type events that are totally unexplained, but could well be interpreted as the tipping point of global warming, where all those great sort of luxuries, those technological achievements that we all hang on to so strongly now are at the flick of a button are taken away from us and leaving us extremely vulnerable to the elements. Anyway, that's my pontificating thoughts as to what might be going on in this movie. The experience that Clay had was in fact a drone dropping leaflets onto his car, and he finally returns back to the house, and his son recognises the script on the notes that were being dropped, which are in some form of Arabic, and his son, knowing a rudimentary amount of Arabic, says that the message on the leaflets, the red leaflets that were dropped from the drone all over the road, death to America. Just to make the plot thicken a little. About 90 minutes in, a thought came into my mind that we've been looking at opposites, two different types of families, to lack of trust on both sides, and this pending sort of crisis of uncertainty with regard to what's going on and what it might lead to, all these odd sort of actions that have been taking place, which creates a lot of sort of anxiety and uncertainty, and to a limited extent a sense of paranoia, particularly with regard to Amanda. So consequently this throws up the issue about, you know, tribalism, and this is raised by the daughter, Scott's daughter, with the idea of trusting your own kind, this sort of racial thinking that we must believe in our own kind first and trust in our own kind rather than trusting comparative strangers, particularly if they are of a different racial characteristic. And again, this movie is sort of hinting at what continues to spread throughout the world, the hostilities between rival tribes, whether it be in terms of political parties, whether it be in terms of wealth, control of resources, or whether it be just in terms of ethnicity. The horrific nature of this movie develops even further when they wake up and Archie, the son, who was previously had a slight fever, seems to have lost his fever, but he's able to pull out his teeth right, left and centre. What's happening to him is anybody's business, but it's got a horrific component for sure. Right, so we stumble towards the conclusion of this movie. I'm not going to spoil it, but it raises, more questions than answers, and it's also a message really about how, if one has a very sort of simplistic view of life and how one can gain sort of a degree of happiness and contentment by mundane popcorn type shows, that one can sort of escape into them, which escapes from the sort of reality, the harsh reality, which could really drive one quickly into depression and into a no hope scenario. So anyway, nice to see some of these stars from yesteryear: Ethan Hawke, Julia Roberts, and of course the tremendous Maharashi Ali. It's an okay film. It's not Oscar material though, and that's my review.